Welcome. We're glad to have you here at the new faculty teaching orientation run by the CTLT called Making Connections. My name is Christina Hendricks. I'm the academic director of the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology. And Emily.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. I'm the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology.
So I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Philosophy. I'm a professor of teaching in the educational leadership stream in philosophy, seconded to this role. So we have a few housekeeping items to get started. We will be verbalizing images on the slides and reading chat comments and questions allowed for accessibility because we do have people joining us online as well as in person. So on the screen currently, we have the title of the session, as well as an image of Irving K. Barber Learning Center in the summer. That's where one of the locations of the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology is. We actually have people in two locations because we're quite a large center. If you're joining us online, this event has closed captions enabled. You can view this feature by clicking on the CC button in your meeting controls. And if you're joining online, please keep your microphone muted when you're not speaking. This session is being recorded or will be recorded and shared as a resource. If you're in the room, the camera will not be showing you, but if you ask questions on the mic, that will be recorded. Your voice will be recorded. If you're online and you'd like to not be recorded, please turn off your camera. So this morning we have faculty joining us from multiple disciplines. The majority of you have been here for less than 4 months. Some of you may be brand new to UBC or brand new to Vancouver. Others may already have attended orientation sessions hosted by your department or other units. And some of you may have been at UBC and just starting in new roles. As we move into winter term 1 at the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology, we are working hard to support faculty adopting new and effective teaching strategies. And as we move into the fall term, UBC has defined a new set of modalities for courses. So we now have, we've always had these, but we now call them a constant vocabulary across the institution. We have in-person courses, fully online courses, hybrid courses, which at UBC means a mix of some meetings in person, maybe some meetings online, or some asynchronous things online that may replace some of the in-person meetings. So that's what we call hybrid. And that's what it's designed by the faculty member to be that way. What we call multi-access is the fourth modality. And that is where participants or students can choose whether they want to join something in person or online. So that's what we're doing here. Right, we're testing out multi-access for this session. So you chose to come in person. There are others who chose to come online, and we're trying to model what this might work out to be for teaching. And we will get there. And as you can see, it's kind of complicated. Right? So we appreciate your patience as we work through these issues. So this day is about making connections and connections to each other. We'll have a little bit of time to chat with each other, connections to various resources, connections to other people who are going to be speaking to you today, connections to one of the offices on campus in addition to the CTLT. So it's an opportunity to join others who are new to their faculty roles and new to teaching potentially. So as academic director of the CTLT, I encourage you to look at our website, ctlt.ubc.ca, to review multiple resources, events, workshops that we have to help you in teaching and learning. And in addition, as you're preparing for your fall classes, we have 2 resources, and we'll talk about these again at the end. One is a faculty primer, we're calling it, because it doesn't go into a lot of detail, but it has a lot of information. So really general kind of basic things about, where do you go for help with this? Or how do you turn in your grades? Or, where do you access information about IT? So those kinds of information are in a faculty primer. We also have a new faculty orientation guide, which you either got on your way in or you will get on your way out, or those online will have access to an online copy. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. There is also a CTLT Summer Institute next week. So that is a week-long series of workshops and events where you can look at various topics about teaching and see if there are any of those workshops that might be useful to you as you start preparing or continue preparing for your fall courses. So that's next week. And lastly, we have a 10-month online teaching development program for new faculty. So this is something we've done recently in the last few years. It's a cohort program. You go through some synchronous sessions, some asynchronous work. It is currently full, but you can go onto the wait list if you are interested. And that is, if you want to know more about the teaching development program for new faculty, go to ctlt.ubc.ca/TDP. ctlt.ubc.ca/TDP. So there's lots of people who have contributed to making today successful. Here are some of them. And we've also got Tim over here working really hard to make the AV work as well as possible. So we have on the slide pictures of Emily Renaud, who you've already met, Senior Educational Consultant at CTLT, Elisa Herman, who is an event coordinator at CTLT, Suki Guman, who you met out front, who is a manager, marketing and events, CTLT, and Rachel Lee, marketing and events specialist at CTLT. So thank you so much to all of the folks who've been making today a success. So we are moving into the territory acknowledgement section of today's event. So UBC's relationship with Indigenous peoples and communities is central to the university. So we hold profound commitments to supporting Indigenous peoples' human rights, aiming towards meaningful reconciliation and reciprocity, including through potentially including more Indigenous voices, perspectives, knowledges, and worldviews into teaching and learning. Many of you may be joining online and you may be joining from various places. So one useful website that Rachel will put into the chat is native-land.ca, which provides information about the Indigenous territories where you may have come from or where you may actually be located now. Indigenous Initiatives at the CTLT is one of our teams, and that team provides programming, resources, consultations, curriculum design, and other work focusing on Indigenous engagement in teaching and learning. The Indigenous Initiatives team at CTLT is guided by members of the Musqueam Nation. And as a practice that has been shared with us, we turn to members of that Musqueam community to open up our events, bring their knowledge and history and perspectives into our work and learning spaces, and of course, welcome us to their territory.
Kus hiloktok to chinas emik netten kus te te sans tomokat kumaskwem. Te ek wanneer Johannes keplano zette something need to swallow. Teotala, hilokstala. I tapka siem nashe. I want to say thank you and welcome to everyone that's here today at UBC on the traditional, ancestral, unceded lands of the Huntkaminam speaking Musqueam people. And as our ancestor Cleoplano did in the past, in welcoming the Spanish under Captain Narvaez and the English under Captain George Vancouver, I raise my hand in welcome to all of you here at UBC on the traditional, ancestral, unceded lands of the Huntkaminam speaking Musqueam people. Our people have been the ones that have lived on this delta since the last ice age, approximately 10,000 years ago, always living at the mouth of the river. And as the delta was formed, we moved down, and we have lived continuously in our community of Musqueam for 4,000 years or more. So those are a little bit of history for where we are here today at UBC on the traditional unceded lands of the Huntkaminam speaking Musqueam people. Thank you.
It actually costs a lot of time and effort on folks to come in person. And so they provide video and other resources for us to use in our work, and actually also for all of you to use in your work. So the Musqueam website at not UBC, apologies. The Musqueam website in BC has fantastic educational information. All you need to do is search up Musqueam, Musqueam, in Google, and you can find their website. They have educational resources that you can use in your teaching or also for your own professional development about Musqueam history, Musqueam culture, Musqueam language, stories, and much more. So they've really been developing out that website quite a bit over the last few years, and I recommend that you take a look at it. Those of us who are here today, as you heard from Elder Grant, are located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. Those who may be joining from the campus at UBC Okanagan are located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Silks Okanagan people. And we may have people joining from other places as well. And once again, native-land is a useful place to look to see what territory you may be on. When I came to UBC as a new faculty member, I came in 2004 from Idaho in the US. That's where I grew up. And that's on Shoshone-Bannock territory. And one of the things that I noticed when I came to UBC from the US was a more prominent emphasis on recognizing the Indigenous territories upon which we are located. And over the years, I've learned that it's not just a matter of acknowledging the territory, of course, it's a matter of what you do with that and what you do after that and what it encourages you to do. So acknowledging the territory respects the fact that this is unceded land, but it also, to me, is a constant reminder of continually needing to learn more and continually needing to think about how I am incorporating respect for Indigenous human rights and moving towards meaningful reconciliation in various aspects of my life, including in my work at UBC. So I want to acknowledge how important these efforts are, but also how painful these efforts are. Because as those of you who are from Canada or have spent much time in Canada, over the past decade or so, there's been a lot of recognition of the history of residential schools in Canada. There were also residential schools in the US, for example, and potentially other places as well, where students were taken from their families, they were pulled away from their cultures, they could no longer speak their own languages, families were broken apart, and kids were also suffered incredibly horrific abuse. So Canada and provinces are working towards trying to work through the truth of those experiences and also reconciliation. And as part of that, a very small part of that, there's a new National Day of Truth and Reconciliation in Canada, which is September 30th. And UBC cancels all classes on that day, but there's a great deal of programming happening on that day. And I encourage you to participate in that programming. It's not a vacation day. It's a day for learning. It's a day for acknowledging the truth and honoring the survivors of residential schools. For example, there's a intergenerational march on campus on September 30th that a lot of us will be joining. So you can look at more of what's happening on the Residential School History and Dialogue Center website at UBC, Residential School History and Dialogue Center website. Finally, the Indigenous Strategic Plan at UBC, which was finalized and launched in 2020, the newest version of it, provides a very clear framework for actions that we can take in our work in teaching, in research, and in other aspects of work at the institution. So I encourage you to read through the Indigenous Strategic Plan and the toolkits that are available around that. Finally, one more plug for the CTLT Indigenous Initiatives team, who again does a lot of work in Indigenous engagement in teaching and learning. They have regular coffee drop-in sessions that you can attend if you just want to have a conversation with other people about incorporating Indigenous worldviews, perspectives, and voices into your teaching. So those happen every 2 weeks. And again, you can see that information on the CTLT website. There's also a self-paced Canvas course on developing land acknowledgements if you are interested in looking more about how to do your own land acknowledgement. So this will be shared with you after the session. It is on Canvas, but you can look up if you're interested.
Well, thank you, everybody. Again, thanks for your patience this morning. And just to note, it's, I think everybody was used to the pandemic, being at home and getting used to using Zoom. And then you come back into this environment and, we're trying to model what a hybrid session looks like. And it can present some challenges, right? And you'll notice it takes a lot of people. Again, it really depends on the scope of your hybrid session. But I would, if you are going to explore kind of, maybe integrating a hybrid session into your teaching and learning, certainly reach out to the Center for Teaching, Learning and Technology, because it's not an easy way to go, but I think it's quite an innovative approach. So I just wanted to mention that. So Christine, thank you for the opening remarks. We're going to shortly do an icebreaker activity for a couple of minutes. Then we have our first set of guest speakers, which are in the room today at the back table there from the Sustainability Hub, and they will be on for about 30 minutes or so, giving us kind of helping us explore this kind of new topic. We'll take a short break. I think it's about 5 minutes or so. Get up and stretch your legs, coffee, cookies for breakfast, breakfast of champions. We will then listen to 3 panelists that I've invited from 3 different faculties across UBC. They've been at UBC probably 5+ years. Some of them went through the teaching development program, so you'll meet them. And I have a series of questions to ask them about how they integrated into campus life, some of the connections they made within their campus, within their faculties, outside their faculty. Then we will, as Christina mentioned, we will look at the faculty primer, which I think is a really important document, reference document for those of you, coming to UBC. Lots of different things we'll cover. It's a pretty thick resource, but we'll kind of highlight some of the important pieces for you. Then we will have a Q&A period. Again, that will be a general Q&A period. There will be Q&A segments built in after the speaker session and after the panel, the faculty panelists. And then we'll round off the session.
Thanks, Emily. So we do have a welcome to UBC from UBC's president, Santa Ono. UBC oversight and direction for the whole institution is provided by the president and vice chancellor, Professor Santa Ono. And though you may have heard that he is moving on in October, we're sad to hear that he'll be leaving UBC in mid-October to go to the University of Michigan. But for the last 6 years, his commitment to UBC has been very strong and clear and supportive of students and teaching and research. So unfortunately, he can't also join us in person, but he has provided a welcome video, which we will now play.
Hello, I'm pleased to welcome you to the University of British Columbia. I hope that your summer break was relaxing and restorative. We have all been working incredibly hard, and these opportunities for rest and renewal are important. On behalf of the entire university community, I congratulate you on your recent appointment. We are proud to have you join our faculty community, a distinctive group of scholars and educators deeply committed to academic excellence. The qualifications and experience you bring to our campus will help us fulfill our institutional mission. I know that you will contribute greatly to the progress of your respective departments and colleges and to the institution at large. UBC values your energy and enthusiasm, and we're excited about the unique ways in which you will shape knowledge and engage with students and your peers on this campus. We finally appear to be emerging from the pandemic. It is our intention to transition to a more thoughtful and intentional approach to welcoming our community back to campus. This includes incorporating some of the valuable lessons that we learned during our shift away from campus-based learning, clarifying the terminology that we use to describe our instructional modalities, and creating opportunities for our students to learn in their preferred modalities going forward. The decisions that we make going forward have the best interest of our students. Forging ahead, it's hoped that clearer definitions for our instructional modalities will allow us to operationalize them consistently and reduce student confusion by clarifying teaching and learning expectations. A good place for new faculty to review course modalities is the Course Modes of Delivery website. Today's new faculty teaching orientation will give you the opportunity to explore the varying teaching modalities, make connections with colleagues, and have conversations around teaching innovation and training opportunities. You'll discuss how to create flexible and inclusive learning environments while indigenizing curriculum and so much more. Please know that we're invested in your success and look forward to the many ways in which you will enhance the academic learning and discovery environment at UBC. We offer a great many support systems to assist you, so please do not hesitate to ask for help and advice. I am confident that we will be seeing and hearing a great deal more about all of your achievements at UBC in the future. Once again, congratulations on your recent appointment. Keep up the good work.
What we'd like to do is just do a couple of icebreakers, nothing too intense. What we'd like to do is, for the people online, we'd like you to post, Rachel's going to put some questions in the chat area. And if you would like to take a minute and put your answers in the chat area. For those of you in the classroom here, if you could take a minute, you're sitting at tables of probably between 2. We have some tables of 4, that's okay. If you could turn to the person next to you, and also maybe just discuss these questions for, let's say, like 3 minutes. So this table of 4, maybe you can kind of work out a strategy there. So why don't we do that? Take a couple of minutes and then we'll come back. If you have your mobile devices or your computers, I'd like you to go to slido.com. Okay, so you'll notice there's a first question that should come up on your side. What is your faculty and department? If you could enter in your answer. I'm just gonna hide those. Oh, is that everybody already? That's amazing. Holy smokes. Christina, do you want to comment on any of that? Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people from lots of different places. There's arts is kind of bigger, so that suggests that there's people from arts, but we've also got arts, sociology, medicine, physical therapy, counseling, psychology,
Wow.
family medicine, forestry. Yeah,
That's amazing.
great diversity in areas.
Okay, the next question I'm pushing out is, are you teaching or research stream? I think everybody may be ready. Let's see. Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
Nearly split.
50-50, yeah.
Yeah, so teaching stream can include sessional faculty, it can include lecturers. We did not add clinical faculty. Apologies.
Okay, these are going to be some stumpers. As of March 23rd, 2022, how many undergraduates, graduates, and residents in health professions attended UBC then? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure, there's going to be random answers. Let's see. Here we go. And the correct answer is 60,292. Anybody get that in the room here? Anybody get that online?
Yeah. Oh, anybody look online?
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going. Okay. Another stumper. Which of these famous people attended UBC? Uh-huh. Are we ready? We should all know this.
Showing the results. Oh, heavy on Justin Trudeau. Good, good. And really, the correct answer is, oh, Michael J. Fox did not go to UBC. Okay. Next one. How many Olympic medals have been won by UBC athletes? Okay, are we ready? Here we go. It's probably a guess. Here we go. Oh, heavy on the sixth. Oh, I think. Very good. Very good.
That over like the course of all of UBC.
Forever and ever. How many Rhodes Scholars has UBC produced? $44, and the correct answer is 78. How many Canadian prime ministers has UBC produced? That's right. Oh, 2 and 3. Correct answer is 3. And they are, by the way, Justin Trudeau, obviously, Kim Campbell, and John Turner. Okay, one last question. Yep. Okay. This is probably the most important question. And it's in relation to your teaching and learning context. If you could have one of these superpowers, which one would you choose? No correct answer, clearly. Probably reading the mind of your students. That's probably. Okay, and what do we got here? Able to fly. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for that engagement with the activity.
We have Tara Ivanachko, professor of teaching from the Department of Earth, Ocean, and Atmospheric Sciences at UBC, also the academic director of the UBC Sustainability Hub. Come on up. And Amanda Zhang, assistant professor, Institute for Resources, Environment, and Sustainability, and the Department of Mechanical Engineering at UBC. In absentia is Oliver Lane, unfortunately. He's ill. Pass on over, get well soon. Yeah, and so I'm going to pass it over to you. Okay. Your slide will be
manage here. Great. Okay, thank you very much. And it's lovely to be here with you and see a whole bunch of new faces coming on campus. Although, again, some of you I actually feel like I've seen. So I'm not certain if there's people who have been transitioning into new roles, but it's great to have a chance to chat with you today. So my role at UBC is faculty in the Department of Earth, Ocean, and Atmospheric Sciences. And also I'm half-time academic director of the UBC Sustainability Hub. And you're meeting a few of us in these roles. So Christina, who was here earlier, academic director of CTLT, right? Roles where faculty are also engaging in other types of activities on campus. And so in our conversation today, we're going to let you know a little bit about what we do at the Sustainability Hub, but also introduce you maybe to even a couple other units on campus that would be great for you to think about and consider connecting with as you spend your time here. So Amanda, who's joining me here, and I are also going to share a little bit about our stories, our experiences at UBC, and what we've done. So our title here is Connecting and Building Community Across Campus. So we're going to just discuss a little bit with you about what we have done and our experiences in connecting with the Sustainability Hub as one of the ways that we have built our community here. And again, Oliver is our teaching and learning manager. I left his name on here so that you might notice that in case you see messages coming from him, introducing himself and welcoming you and inviting you to different kinds of events. So unfortunately, he's not here with us today. Okay, so I've gone through a little bit of what we'll be talking about. So I'll introduce you to the hub, Amanda and I are just going to share our stories with you, and then I'm going to leave you with some resources and ideas around ways that you can connect in with the Sustainability Hub. So you're here today in the CSIRS building, the Center for Interactive Research and Sustainability. And this is the home of the Sustainability Hub on campus, and our office is just on the second floor, right next to UBC Wellbeing, another unit that you might think about paying attention to, and the Center for Community Engaged Learning, one that has been really important for me in my journey here at UBC. So the second floor of this building might be a place that you could come in and wander around at some time. We'll be having open houses, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to meet people from these 3 different units. So our mission here at the Sustainability Hub is to inspire people, UBC people, but others as well, to act on the most urgent challenges through UBC's academic and operational sustainable leadership. So we are privileged on this campus to have multiple groups thinking about sustainability, and multiple groups that interact and engage to bring us as leaders in operational and academic sustainability on campus. And one of our partners is Campus and Community Planning. And Campus and Community Planning are the group that deal with operational sustainability. So they're thinking about what is the energy uses of our buildings, and what is going on with our fleets, and how are we dealing with water and waste and all of this kind of stuff on campus. The Sustainability Hub is not an academic unit, but we engage with the academic side to support and enable and connect and facilitate sustainability in your teaching and in your research and in other ways that you're engaging on campus. So we partner, we don't do the operational stuff, but we partner with them and do a lot of bridging between operations and the academics. We have programming for faculty, we have programming for graduate students, and we have programming for undergraduate students in a variety of different ways. And this summary slide here, you can see again, if you go to our website, which is sustain.ubc.ca, that summarizes our perspective on our role here on campus. And you probably have not spent time doing this yet, but there is a strategic plan at UBC that sort of lays out in the big picture where we're going. And our plan reflects the goals of UBC. And so we have the same types of categories here, people and places, but we put our own slant to this. So we're making sustainability a core part of UBC's identity, right? Transformative learning with a sustainability lens, research excellence, both supporting and really raising the profile of the research that you're doing here on campus that relates into sustainability, and then bringing us all together, events like this and others. We have 4 main areas that we focus on. You can only see 2 of them here. The other ones are covered, but it's climate, resilient communities, circular economy, and I'll have to even remember the last one. I can't even remember it, that awful. No, not justice. Where is it? I'm going to move this so I can see it. Biodiversity. Yes, there we go. I should know that. Right. So those are, I can move that up. You can see those. So that doesn't mean that we don't engage in other areas. Okay, never mind. I'm not. There we go. Sorry. I'm not going to try to move things around right now. But you'll find that we have programming really focused in those areas for supporting the work and connections that are happening there. Okay. So again, thinking about the community that you might be building and exploring, the hub, again, with the sustainability lens, thinks about the relationships that we have. So again, we partner with CTLT through their Spring Institute and their Fall Institute, and sharing some of the sustainability type ideas and innovations that are happening on campus through the coordinated institutes that they run. We partner with other groups on campus, Wellbeing, the Botanical Garden, First Nations House of Learning, right? All different types of units on campus to make sure that sustainability is embedded throughout the programming at UBC. So I'm sure if Campus and Community Planning had this and we're doing this, they would shift these around, they would have them in different ways. But again, sustainability is not only our opportunity for us to work on campus, it's throughout. So you'll find different ways to connect depending on where you have interests. Okay, so one of the things that we do is really work to support faculty in making unique connections. And I'm going to bring it over to Amanda, who's been one of the lovely fellows that we've had here at UBC working with sustainability, to share with you kind of her story, what she's gotten out of this, and maybe some meaningful, maybe some tips that you can share with people.
Let's see if I have any good tips. So yeah, I joined UBC as an assistant professor in 2018. So, 4 years goes by really, really quickly. I'm a research stream faculty member, and I'm cross-appointed in the Institute for Resources, Environment, and Sustainability, and also mechanical engineering. And yeah, today I'm just going to try to share some of my own experiences in terms of trying to find community at UBC through teaching and learning, but also how this community has really supported me, not just in my role as an instructor, but also as an engaged scholar. I think, the questions probably gave you an idea that UBC is a really big place. It's, multiple campuses, huge number of faculties and schools, so many, different kinds of learners, faculty. And I think that's one of the real strengths of UBC. There's such richness and diversity at this university, but I also think that this is what makes UBC a bit overwhelming as a new faculty member. There's just a lot to navigate, both in terms of the way the university is set up itself, and also all the different roles that you now have as a new faculty member. And so certainly for me, when I first started, I think some of the teaching my first course was one of those things I was particularly anxious about navigating. So that I had TA'd before, but it was my first time being an instructor of record, designing a course. And the first course that I was assigned to teach was actually in the environmental sciences program. It's an undergraduate course I still teach in energy, environment, and society. And it actually hadn't been taught for several years at the point when I was assigned to teach it. So this is this, big opportunity for curriculum renewal. And so that's actually how I got connected with the UBC Sustainability Hub, is that I applied for an interdisciplinary education grant with my colleague, Terry Satterfield, and IRES. She's an anthropologist. We were going to co-teach the course. And as part of this renewal process, we wanted to design some new case studies for the course that would really catalyze some interdisciplinary learning. And so honestly, when I applied to the grant program, my focus was really on trying to access some financial resources that would help support us in doing that curriculum renewal. And so I mentioned the IEG, but there are also lots of other kind of curriculum development support funding opportunities on campus. And that's great because this actually allows you to access some resources, for instance, to work with graduate students to help you to, develop courses, like a huge plus. So, when I applied to the program, that was, the reason why I did so. But the program actually also involved the Sustainability Fellows program. So in addition to getting some funding to work on these teaching and learning projects, there were these cohorts of other grant holders who were a cohort of sustainability scholars. And we would meet every month to share progress on our projects, but also just to, do some co-learning on things that we were interested in, things like teaching in the context of climate grief, or, topics that we were interested in and wanted to engage in our teaching a little bit more. And so when I reflect back on my time as a sustainability fellow, absolutely, we did develop those case studies. I still use them, or we're growing on them in class. The curriculum development part was a huge part of it, but really the community and relationships that I built through that sustainability fellow program are some of the things that really stayed with me and evolved and really served me as I've continued at UBC. So I just wanted to, reflect on that a little bit. I think teaching and learning is a really great way to connect with colleagues around campus, interdisciplinary colleagues around campus. I think this, the diversity of folks in this room is one example of that. I consider myself to be an interdisciplinary researcher. My research is kind of at the interface of engineering and public policy around pollution, climate, and energy issues. But even in that interdisciplinary context, in a research context, I have a fairly wide view, but there are people who I'm almost never in a room with for a research basis. So, I work with folks in political science, let's say, or law, but I'm rarely in a room with people from theater or language literacy education, let's say. And so it was through these teaching and learning environments where I actually met a bunch of colleagues who are working, in very different parts of campus, places that I really didn't have a lot of exposure through. And that was really, really enriching. It was really enriching, one, to kind of learn the different pedagogies that my colleagues were using, but these pedagogies also I felt gave me a really interesting window into just different ways of knowing being, making, doing, that has really also enriched my research. So, for instance, like through this fellows program, I was introduced to, more movement-based approaches to learning, arts-based approaches. And these are things that, especially on the engineering side, aren't necessarily, the norm for me, but working with folks in theater and dance where, this might be part of their regular practice, it really opened up some ideas for me, which has also really enriched my research. Now there's a huge part of my research, which is really about how do we weave these multiple different, forms of knowing to better support policy decisions. So it was really great to learn those pedagogies, but I think it also just opened my mind up in terms of the diversity of scholarship that's happening on campus. And then realistically, it was also just really useful to have more people to commiserate with. Being a faculty member is challenging, especially as a new faculty member. Not just commiserate, it's important to kind of have those spaces to share and vent, but also just to have community to strategize with. These are other people who are going through similar things, to try to learn how this complex organization works. Things like, how do you actually propose a new course and get that accepted? It is there's a lot of tacit knowledge, let's say, that things that aren't written in the guides that I think you get, kind of through meeting people. So I think those are some of the things that kind of surprised me in terms of my participation in the program. And over the years, I think, it's been really great to kind of build on the relationships I established through that program, and then also make new connections through the people that I met through that program. So, for instance, this cohort of fellows, they're regular guest lecturers in my classes. We, do exchanges. But also I'm right now involved in one of many efforts to try to reimagine PhD training at UBC. In this case, to be think about how it can be more collaborative or transdisciplinary, and particularly applied to the climate emergency. And two of my colleagues who lead this program, one is in chemical and biological engineering, the other is in education. They were talking, they're really close collaborators now. And we were having coffee the other day, and they were like, Amanda, we just remembered that you were the one who introduced us. And then I was like, oh, how did I meet the two of you? And it turned out that I had met the two of them also separately in the context of these teaching and learning environments. And, now through them and through that project, I've met a whole bunch of other people. I'm also involved in the Center for Climate Justice, again, something I got connected with through a colleague that I met through one of these teaching and learning opportunities. And so I think it's just kind of an example of how these connections you make, they're seeds for, more connections that I think really enrich both, my teaching and then also my research. So, I think that's, it's been a really great experience for me. It's also been a great experience, I would say, for my students as well, who have also participated in a lot of these programs and managed to make connections across the university also. So, being a new faculty member is tough, but I think what makes it worth it is the relationships. And that includes with, your fellow teaching and learning, fellow faculty, let's say. Yeah. Okay.
My story, so I would also just highlight that Amanda is a research faculty right here, whereas I am teaching student faculty. So I am now professor of teaching here. And I started again, I don't know, I don't remember when I started, 2009, I think I started. And one of the first things that caught my eye was the fellowship program as that was offered then by the Sustainability Hub under a slightly different name. It was called the University Sustainability Initiative. So you might see reference to that. That's an older name. And at that time, sustainability was trying to figure out what sustainability education at UBC might be, right? What are the attributes of a graduate pan discipline, right, that has gone through a sustainability program? How would we know, and what are we doing to ensure that we can evaluate how we're teaching sustainability? And right off the top, as an education leadership faculty, that started to guide my thinking about where my leadership would go. And through my connections as a sustainability fellow, I then had opportunities to sit on the group that was developing the UBC 20-year sustainability strategy. I've sat in the groups that are developing the interdisciplinary task force, the community engaged learning task force on how UBC is supporting and developing its resources towards education, right? So those little opportunities then started shaping the way that I saw myself as a leader, right? In education, but a leader at UBC, and then more broadly. So again, depending on where you're going, Amanda was talking about how even some of these teaching and learning opportunities connected into her research and have influenced the collaborations that she's going there. On the educational leadership stream, of course, the resources in developing teaching and learning help your classes and how you're thinking about your classroom experience, but they can also help guide and develop how you're thinking about your educational leadership roles on campus. So I would also encourage you to think about there. And then of course, now I just indicated that now I'm in a, this is something, right? Whether people like going into these areas or not, right? That will depend on your interests and where you go. But over time now I'm the academic director of this unit, right? Again, sort of through building on some of those smaller experiences that happened before, thinking about the connections, doing these types of interdisciplinary projects, demonstrating how we can be effective on campus, and then finding, and in my role now, helping guide how we're thinking about sustainability overall. And all of this comes in, right? I built all of this into the package that I put forward for my promotion to professor of teaching, right? So there's lots of different ways that you can think about connecting in and building the community. And some of the, just to reiterate, some of the most fun conversations are with faculty who are quite different, right, in different disciplines. So through community engaged learning, right? So this is, again, another unit on campus here that will help you think about whether or not you want your students working with the community off campus, building projects into your classes. From my perspective, linking sustainability through those social relationships that might be developing. So through programming that they offer, I now have relationships with people in fine arts, lots of relationships with people in education, relationships with people at Stoddard Business School, right? Ones that I would not, I mean, as faculty in Earth, Ocean, Atmospheric Sciences would not have been obvious, or I wouldn't even really know how to make those connections in the first place. Okay, so just to wrap up, I want to let you know of a few things, some of the programs that we have available for you. So again, Amanda mentioned our sustainability education grants, or sometimes they're called interdisciplinary education grants, depending how we put our focus in that year. So these can be grants of up to $20,000 over 2 years, and they support the development of new courses, of course, thinking about sustainability, and usually these ones have a partner. So they force you right off the top to connect in with somebody else to build this up. We'll have a new round of these coming up in the spring. And some examples of things that have been developed through here are, in this case, it was applied science and education. So thinking about how we can bridge and bring in participatory urban indigenous planning into the education students' experience. This was one that actually has now come to fruition. A collaboration between me and Jessica Dempsey in geography, building a new certificate at UBC. So this is an 18-credit certificate in climate studies and action that was really spurred on by the declaration of the climate emergency here at UBC. Now students are enrolling in that this year for the first time. Climate hacks in the community. Again, this is from forestry, thinking about engaging and taking students into the community to meet the needs of community partners. And a partnership between sociology and curriculum and pedagogy, building, again, a new certificate in sustainable living through family contexts. They've got some really interesting courses coming through there. Sustainability and resources, sustainability and family, a variety of different things. And here one, public policy and population and public health, achieving sustainability and global health. This is a fascinating talk about multiple modalities. These guys are bringing in people from around the world to engage in our classrooms. The climate education grants are a smaller, one last thing about those, that the larger grants there, that is the program that brings you in as a fellow as well. So if you're a recipient of one of those larger grants, then we bring you in to connect in with the other recipients and support the whole cohort as they're going. There's some smaller grants that can bring climate change into your classes, existing classes, right? And here's some examples, different ways that this is coming in the variety of different disciplines. So maybe I'll ask, how many of you think that your topic or discipline area intersects with sustainability in some way? Yeah, okay. So you might be seeing things here that get your brain going. It's great to see that there's so many of you in the room. So some other ways that you can bring sustainability and climate related stuff into your classroom is to engage with the Climate Teaching Connector. And this could also be something for your graduate students. So this is a program where we pay graduate students with climate experience, climate discipline in some way, variety of different intersections with climate. And they are climate experts that you can bring into your classroom. And we pay them for the time that they spend in your classroom. But it's a great opportunity to get diverse and a variety of climate conversations happening. And the SEEDS program is another way that you can connect in. So this is projects that you can bring into your classroom that have a operational partner on campus. So I talked about campus and community planning as sort of the operational side of sustainability. So they are always interested in students helping them think through some of the major challenges that we have. And you can bring those into your classroom for credit. The Fellows Program you've heard about. So this is aligned with those major grants, and we really bring people together and support them in conversation for the time they're with us, which is up to 2 years. We have lots of events. So you can see on our website, the sustainability events page, a variety of things from webinars to conversations to small intimate discussions and a lot of different opportunities like fix-it events, right? Bring in your stuff. Again, the kind of things that not only you, but maybe your students would be interested in. And the Interdepartmental Climate Action Group. This is this is the last one I think that I'll bring up here. Some departments have formed committees in response to the climate emergency declaration. And they sort of have initiated a cross-campus interdisciplinary climate action group. So if your department does not have one of those committees, you can either ask them why they don't and suggest that they do, or you can independently get in touch and we can connect you into others around campus. This group is thinking about bigger picture things. You know, what does it mean to be an academic concerned about climate action and be flying, right? How are we going to tackle those kinds of big problems? Okay, so this is not moving anymore, but why is it not going forward anymore? Try here. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I just wanted to remind you of some of these units, but I'm pretty much at time, so I'm going to just leave it here and you can have these. So again, the second floor of this building is a really important building for a variety of support units. And then again, if you're interested, particularly for receiving grants, lots of different opportunities, TLEF grants and whatnot, linking into some of the key plans on campus is a really effective way of showing, right, the timeliness, right, and the importance of the work that you're doing. So there is the overarching strategic plan, and then related to climate, right, there's task force recommendations that came out. There's a climate action plan that we now have on campus, and the Indigenous strategic plan, which was mentioned, Christina was mentioning earlier. So I would encourage you to have a look at those at some point in time, scroll through them, because they might find ways of making the work that you're doing connect into some of those strategic priorities. And I'll leave it there. Yes. Okay. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Amanda. Any last questions for Tara and Amanda?
I just, what does the money go to if you get money developed for hiring a student?
It's usually for hiring a student, but sometimes it's for developing resources itself. Like if you're building some interactive model or you're doing, you know, so you can do some, we don't always restrict. In some ways, our funding is quite open. The climate, the small grants have come from a specific pool of money that came from student tuition. So that fund that has to go to students, but the other ones can be quite open. It can also be for travel or other types of things.
Okay, we're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
So let's go for 5 minutes. So stretch, downward dog, do something, calisthenics outside, there's coffee, get the cookie, eat the cookie. And we will come back and we will have our faculty panel. So we have our faculty panel here, and I'm always pleased that when I send out invites, because again, I know it's a busy time of year, so thank you so much. We have Sarika Bose, lecturer, Department of English Language and Literature, Faculty of Arts. We have Tamara Cohen,
Director of Dietetics, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Land and Food Systems, and Graham Hendra, Lecturer, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Faculty of Applied Science. So thank you so much for being here. In the spirit of transparency, I sent out questions quite a while ago. So I will be going through the questions. So it's a little bit of a talk show here. There we are. That is nerve-wracking. Here we are. Yeah. Okay.
Like-
So
Talk, cross my legs for the real talk show feel. Yeah.
it's weird. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Is there
5 seconds. Yeah.
You're watching that
Yeah.
screen instead of the real thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll get started. So thanks very much again for being here today. So just let's start with a fairly quick question. How long have you all been at UBC for? I'll start with Sarika.
Hi, I've been here since 1999, so I'd rather not say the years. You just calculate for yourself.
Left as an exercise for the reader. I was here for 8 years as a grad student, and then I switched to being a lecturer, and I've been here for 3 years as a lecturer.
I was asked to join UBC as a sessional lecturer before my official appointment, which was in 2019, and then I officially started January 2020.
Great, thank
Best
you.
time.
Yeah. Okay, what did you find helpful in your first few months? And how did you get your bearings? I know, we'll start here. We'll just keep going. Sure. In that row.
Okay, well, my first few months, I had a lot of really helpful colleagues who were in my position, and they just gave me they held my hand a lot. And I think the most useful advice I got was that you've been given an impossible job. Don't beat yourself up.
So yeah, I prepared a couple of notes on what I want to say. So when you see me checking my phone, I'm not, checking my Instagram. I am checking my notes. So the 3 things that I wrote down were, one was, and I promised I wasn't told to say this, but attending CTLT workshops I found really helpful for getting oriented to teaching. Another was trying to find a mentor in the department. Multiple mentors is good too. And the third was building good relationships with the staff members in our department. I think that's something that is easy to overlook as faculty. Faculty are trained to pay attention to other faculty, but staff have a lot of power, and not a lot of faculty members are nice to them. So like a little nice goes a long way when it comes to working with staff. Yeah.
Yeah, I my position here at UBC is rather unique because I have a senior administrative role overseeing dietetics training for the university and actually the province. And then I also wear a researcher hat. So I am an assistant prof in the research tenure track stream. So specific to the researchers out there here in the crowd, I sort of agree, getting your bearings, sitting down with other faculty who are sort of at your level, who can give you lessons learned within their own, like candid viewpoints, lots of coffee dates. Someone actually gave me the advice to get an espresso in your office. So you can invite people in and they'll come and sit with you, and it actually works. So there you go.
That's a great idea.
Equally, jumping on board and sort of like, whatever was offered to me, being in the researcher stream and sort of very nervous about teaching, the supports at CTLT, and I know I feel like we will definitely be plugging it, the teaching development program, hands down saved me. I really think that, just to get my bearings, know what was the overview of UBC landscape, the philosophy of UBC, just coming straight out east without a postdoc, it was very, very green. And it really helped me connect with other members outside my faculty, which was invaluable to me. And in fact, we're still friends today. There's a little group of us who go out every 4 months for beers. Thanks to TDP. Yeah.
That's so great to hear.
Mhm.
So we keep saying TDP, so that's the teaching
Development program.
for faculty. I should know that, which is going into its 4th year. So that's really, and so Tamara and Graham were part of the very first cohort in 2019,
Correct.
which, as we know, switched to
Online.
in 2020.
Yeah. We
so
saw
thank
it
you
all.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So thank you for that.
And it
That's
was,
amazing.
it was really, as I said, I think the best part is it gives you that nice overview of absolutely everything. So admittedly, I came from out east. All the movement of EDI and indigeneity was very, very new to me. I didn't even know what a land acknowledgement was. And I was very clear with that with my students, and they were up there very proud to say them. And I just couldn't do it until I was well informed and felt confident in myself. And I remember my first land acknowledgement, thanks to all my workshops I had done, my students literally gave me a standing ovation, but they understood that that was something that I needed to come to terms with, and it had to come from me in my own time. And now it's like second nature. But if it wasn't for that, I would have really not been as versed and confident.
Thank you. It's kind of a part two, maybe part two of this answer. So what challenges did you experience when you first started, and how did you overcome them? What has helped you in your career?
I think time management was the hardest. I was teaching all essay courses all the time, and many essays per term and many students. So it was really being plunged into the deepest of waters. I had a lot of mentors, both my contemporaries and people who'd been there a long time. And I have to mention Judy Brown, who sadly passed away a few years ago. She was our great mentor. She mentored generations of teachers from UBC. So I learned a lot of techniques about how to give feedback and things like that. Very practical things I learned from experienced colleagues in different ranks. So my greatest challenge was to keep up with the workload, which was huge. Continues to be not so easy, but I've learned some of those techniques for time management. And in the last 20 years, some of the pedagogical literature has also developed, and we've learned a lot. And CTLT, I'll plug CTLT again, did not have those resources when I began, but it certainly has them now. And so really take a look at all of the supports that are available to you. So many workshops. Even though I've been teaching a long time, I'm planning to come next week to some of the workshops, because you can constantly remind yourself of new techniques or old techniques and practice.
Thank you. Thanks. Graham.
Yeah, so echoing some of the things that were just said, I think finding the time for everything was the biggest challenge for me. And I think that the way that I managed that was to cut things. Just like, this is something that I can't do well, I'm not going to do it. I had a colleague who defined stress as like having so many things to do that you can't do any of them well. And I was like, I would rather pick the couple of things that I can do well than try and do everything and end up feeling like I'm failing at everything. And this is almost backwards advice, but this ended up actually including cutting things out of my personal time. Like, I had been going to the gym a lot before I started working, and I made the decision, like, I would rather just not do that while I'm new here. And I think, like, a lot of my friends were like, why not you just do it less? And I was like, no, that would feel like a half measure to me. I would like get anxiety that I'm not doing it enough. Like, I'd rather just not do it than feel like I'm doing it badly. And so, if that sounds crazy to you, then that's good. You shouldn't give up your hobbies. And if that doesn't sound crazy to you, then, only do that with the plan to bring them back. And I have brought that back, I should say. So yeah.
Just giving out work
altogether. Yeah. So yeah, I think like just picking what to dedicate yourself to was a big way of navigating that. Let's see what else I wrote here. Decision paralysis, that was another big challenge. And particularly in designing courses for the first time. And I think the two things that helped a lot with that was, one was the idea of backward design. I don't know, have you talked about that here?
No.
Okay. Backward design is the idea that you take your course and you say, what do I want the students to learn? And then, okay, this is what I want them to learn. So how am I going to assess them to prove that they've learned that? And this is the assessment that they're going to do. Okay, so what am I going to teach them so that they can do the assessment? And I felt that just made things a lot more natural. A lot of the decisions were like, oh, well, obviously the thing to do if I want them to learn this is this kind of an assessment. So that was one helpful, like, I guess, paradigm for approaching those problems. And the other was just asking colleagues, lots of colleagues, about like, hey, I don't know how to do this, and I'm thinking about maybe doing this or doing that. Great thing about that, builds relationships with your colleagues, and they're not giving you your classroom. If you don't take your advice, they won't know. Or if you don't take their advice, they won't know. So, you can listen to their advice and then disregard it. And it's a good way of just understanding more about what people are doing, and I think also building relationships. Yeah. And then the career, what's helped me? Luck. Yeah.
Luck. Okay.
Luck has helped me.
Question?
Like, what's helped me in my career?
Yeah.
Luck. Yeah, I think.
Tell us your experience when you first started and what has helped you in your career. So.
Yeah, thank you. I think you're just so inundated with so many things, exactly what we're saying here. And you just have to pick very wisely. And I think for myself, I've taken this on to be like a game of chess. And someone once told me that it is, at least in the researcher stream, this huge game of chess, and you have to play strategically. And one thing I've sort of come to terms with, and I actually was speaking to a colleague today about it and telling her this, things come in cycles. So if you don't make this deadline or you don't make that workshop, it will definitely resurface literally at the exact same time the next year. So you don't have to be so hard on yourself. And I think particularly when I'm in grant writing phase, definitely okay to just say, not this time, I'll wait for the next cycle and let it pass. And I think that sort of helped me also grow, become more, rigorous in my science, and just help me balance it all, because it can become incredibly overwhelming.
Thank you. What are one or two of your biggest aha moments in your teaching career?
Okay, so I guess my biggest aha moment was something similar to what you learned much earlier than I did, which was to cut out some things. Readings, when you start off, you tend to overfill your syllabus with assignments and readings. And that's one of the aha moments. I also went to a conference where an economist, Guy Standing, talked about the difference between work and labor. And it really helped me to understand that what you get paid for is your labor, but what you do with your life is your work. And so you learn eventually not to cut out your hobbies. I'm not a good example because I cut out choir, which was my lifelong thing that I did, and I don't do it now. It took too much time, but I tell you not to do that. And so your labor is strengthened by your commitment to your work, your life's work. What are you dedicated to? And the things that your passions, I know this sounds like, pep talky, but that's not what I mean. Your passions really are important, and they will then give a foundation to your teaching. Right now, my big passion is certain kinds of museum exhibits. I'm trying to figure out how to put that into my teaching, how to teach material history, which, you see, I've been teaching a long time. I was thinking, yeah, gotta do this again. September's here again. But I've been kind of rejuvenated by my travels this year. And I've been to places where people are making stories out of information in ways that help us understand it, that information in new and exciting ways. And that's now, I feel rejuvenated. I'm excited about new kinds of assignments I can do. So my aha moment there too is that it's okay to be excited and not blasé. It's okay to get in front of students and really share your passion and not always try to protect yourself by that professional face. So you've got to be professional, of course you do, but have a little bit of bravery, a little bit of courage to show that it's okay to care about your subject.
Thank you. Graham.
All right. So the first one that comes to mind as an aha moment was I talked before about backwards course design, and like a related idea there is alignment, just that your the things that you teach, the things that you assess, and your learning objectives should be in harmony with one another. Kind of two sides of the same coin there. I think just uncovering that was a big aha moment for me. It gave me the language to explain a lot of the contradictions that I had observed in courses that I didn't like, and that I was like noticing in things that I was putting together, like something doesn't feel right about this. What is it? And it's, oh yeah, there's a lack of alignment. And so that was a big aha moment for me. The other one was that, I'm gay, and I felt that I didn't have mentors as an undergraduate student. Didn't have gay mentors specifically in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I really debated when I was new to teaching, like, is this something that I should be sharing with my students so that I can be a mentor, or is that out of scope and going to like do more harm than good? And the aha moment was I attended a presentation by a faculty member from, I think it was the University of Arizona, and she'd studied the experiences of queer students in group work in Arizona. And one of the conclusions that came out of her work when she had these focus groups was she asked the students, like, do you have queer mentors? And they're like, well, we have plenty of queer mentors, like, in our humanities courses, but none in our STEM courses. And so she said, would it be valuable to you to have mentors? And they were all like, of course. And so that was the aha moment of like, okay, like, there we go. Like, somebody studied this, like, I have my permission to do this. And so the way that I came up with is I work it into my self-introduction. My name is Graham. I grew up in Toronto. I went to the University of Waterloo. Then I came to the University of British Columbia. I'm, as far as I know, the only openly gay instructor in mechanical engineering. I like dogs more than cats, and long walks on the beach. And so, yeah. And so that was like it was very good to know, like, I did want to do that, but to have that permission to do that. And so I think the lesson for everybody that I like to share is like, if you have something like that makes you feel like you can be a mentor to people who don't feel represented in your field, don't be shy about sharing that. It's not out of scope. And you can work it in like a fun way like that without making it your defining characteristic to your class. The first time that I shared that, I got an email from a student as soon as I got back to my office, and it was just like, dear Graham, I really appreciated you sharing that you liked cats dogs more than cats. That was really meaningful to me. And I understand that I'm sure there's a lot of students in the class who would feel the same. And I was like, okay, good. So that was really, yeah.
That's funny. In my class, I poll the students on first day who likes dogs more than cats. And then I make it clear I like cats. And it really lightens the class mood so quickly. And they can see, like, we're here to learn, but I'm really hope to be a lot of fun. Yeah. I think specific to teaching, exactly to what you're saying, is I had, again, like, not coming from a teaching background, from a researcher's perspective, the teaching was always very daunting. And just understanding that the purpose is not to get students to do that busybody work, and to really make it purposeful and meaningful was something that really stuck to me. Like, I really try to bring through. And yeah, and I think the other thing with the teaching is just to experiment and to know that if it fails, it's okay. I mean, the students are so open here, I find, at UBC, and will definitely give you that constructive feedback, at least my group will. And also sharing syllabi with other colleagues, at least within my group of dietetics, we train dietitians. So we're very open to that, and making sure that what we teach in each other's classes is all, somewhat the same and not overlap. So just, yeah, I had never really thought of teaching being this collaborative approach, even though you're that single person standing in front of the group. My aha specific to teaching is that it can really be like this sort of professorial activity.
Something to add to that about students being forgiving. What I've observed in my department is students are very forgiving if they believe that you care about what you're doing and you're trying. If they get the sense that you're faking it and like throwing it in, all that goodwill goes out the window, and they're going to hate that. So if you don't feel that way, at least learn to fake it.
What words of wisdom do you have for new incoming faculty? Sorry.
I say build your relationships, build your community, and be humble about learning from everyone around you and take the CTLT courses. I'm not trying to.
I did not pay her, I promise.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So I've already plugged backwards design a couple of times, so I won't bore you with that. Don't be afraid of your colleagues is one. A lot of people are really afraid of like all of the full professors in their department. Oh, they're going to decide my tenure case. In my department, at least, like the full professors are very much like, I don't understand why everyone's afraid of me. I want to help. So don't be afraid of them. Ask them for advice. This is one of those things that can benefit you. And I believe there's one of those How to Make Friends and Influence People books. That's like, if you want somebody to like you, you should ask them to do you a favor rather than do them a favor, because apparently that tricks us into thinking we like people. We only do favors for people we like. So like, don't be afraid of asking senior colleagues for help. They'll appreciate that you are respecting their, expertise. Learn to say no, or better phrasing, I unfortunately don't have time for that. And be prepared for imposter syndrome. It's going to hit at some point or other, and just know that you're not going to be the only one. Don't be afraid about talking about that with your colleagues when it hits.
Those are really great points. I think blocking off time in your calendar for you is your number one. So I block off first the workouts, just going to admit that. Number one, workout. Number two, your prep time. You have to reserve it. And no matter what crisis comes your way, because I get quite a few of those, it's my prep time. So you have to be very, very strict to like block that and defend it like your life depends on it. And just know, again, like you can be strategic. And if you miss the deadline, nothing, typically happens. You can relax. There's a reason why tenure's in a couple years for us all, including myself. And I think you just really have to have fun. I always tell my students, if it's not fun, don't do it.
Any questions for the panelists?
So there's a question on any tips on managing time and approaching colleagues to build relationships without bothering them.
Okay, so one tip for managing time that comes to mind for me, be realistic about how long things are going to take you. Especially the first time, they're going to take you longer than you think. I've noticed this, and my dad has this real habit of like, that should take me an hour. And there's always the word in there, should. And it's like, so it's not actually going to take you an hour. Like, you want it to take you an hour, but you should realize that it's going to take you like 4 hours, right? And yeah, like knowing how long things are going to take you makes it a lot easier to plan your schedule. If your schedule is assuming, perfect transfers every time, and then that doesn't work, you're going to be behind all the time.
One thing I could suggest is you could keep a time diary for yourself to start with. So write down over a week how long it's taking you to do every activity in your day, whether it's how to make breakfast. I mean, I always think it'll take me 5 minutes, and then I get tempted by the egg and then it takes me 15 minutes, and then I have 5 minutes to eat. So I have to write down that time diary. So that's what I would suggest. Every single activity. And it will take you longer to do things you haven't done before, because you're trying to figure out, you're learning as you go. So that's my biggest tip for time management.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really big on blocking off chunks of time. I even go ahead and block 2 days straight for an activity, just assuming that the first day is a write-off. I'm just laundry, this, that, like the dog and the squirrel. And then the second day I actually do the work. So I'm really big on 2 consecutive days fully blocked for an activity. I start every week with writing a list of what I hope to accomplish that week. And honestly, I've come to the sheer realization that it might be 3 lines. Like, that's literally all you can get done, because items take so long. But that took like time for me to also come to terms with, because I think we're all of a certain personality here. And yeah, just with time, you become a lot more forgiving with yourself. And for fostering relationships with colleagues, I'm big on just, I mean, I was in a unique position where I started pre-COVID, then I lived COVID, and now I'm back to the normal, I guess. And I'm always on site. I'm always stopping to say hello to people. I'm very chatty, which is a good and bad thing. Always asking for advice. I don't know. I think you just have to break out of that shell.
I also was thinking about fostering relationships with colleagues. I aggressively complimented people who were grumpy all the time.
You look very grumpy this morning. Suits you.
I love your lipstick. Oh, those shoes. I wish I had shoes, whatever. Or I just, these were the grumpy people, but because it took 3 years, right, per person. But other people, you might invite someone for coffee or say, I was really interested in your article about this, or something like that. Something that's not too smarmy or insincere. Try to feel, if like Graham's technique there, fake it if you don't feel it, but you'll eventually feel it and you'll appreciate people, and people see that genuine appreciation from your part, and you will find that collegiality can build from that.
Yeah, I think in my department, I feel like attending department meetings is a good way to get a sense of your colleague's character, which can help you gauge who you're maybe going to get along with and maybe not going to get along with. Not that anyone's unfriendly, just, you're going to have different interactions with different people. And then I think my department has like a central office with a coffee machine in it. So like if you get addicted to coffee and spend enough time there, you're going to meet most of your colleagues in there at some point or other. And like, they can't really go anywhere while they're making their coffee, right? Like, so people get pretty chatty there.
And lots of great conversations happen in the kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, it's very, people will just come and complain about things, actually. Like people love to complain about things, and then you just like agree with them, and then you complain about your thing. And like, we're on the same.
And then, then the day's done.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any last questions? Wish we could do this all day, because I think
I'll take some questions from in person before we move on to
we only
more
have one
online,
question.
but I'll open the floor up to anyone here.
Great. Here, you know what? I'll go back there.
Thank you so much for all of this. My question is really about an anxiety that I have coming from teaching smaller class sizes. I'm an art historian, so I'm teaching the humanities, a deeply qualitative field that's very discussion-based, interpretive, very personal often. And I'm about to teach a class that's twice the size of any class I've ever taught before. And I'm terrified about how to form meaningful connections with students, come up with new assessment strategies, and essentially redesign my entire teaching style to address myself to these larger class sizes. And I'm just wondering if you have any insight about that.
We have about, maybe take a 30 seconds. I know that's really short to answer. That's okay.
Yeah, I guess for me, in teaching engineering, the class sizes are usually pretty large. So I don't know if I have any advice that's going to be particularly helpful to you. I think just like the lesson that I can think of coming from online teaching would be breakout rooms as a way of taking a large class and bringing back some of that small class atmosphere.
I would do the same, breakout groups. I do a lot of that. And sometimes I give really standard kinds of exercises. These are English literature classes, but sometimes I give them a principle to examine from a very ridiculous perspective, So I don't know if I'm teaching argument and persuasion. So convince each other, two different groups, do a debate on, I don't know, whether Batman should really overcome Superman, that kind of thing. Just to get, I think what I do in those big classes, in order to make the breakout groups not just sit there with one person talking or two people talking, is to give them stakes so that they have to present in some way to the rest of the class. They might teach another group a skill that they're responsible for, and then that group has to teach another group, and so on. So that might be a way to do it.
I mean, I just utilize my TAs to help me.
Right.
Again, I don't have as much teaching experience, but similarly, breakout rooms, which will now be in person with TA help.
Yeah, and ask your colleagues. Like, I'm sure your colleagues will want to help you with that.
I do have one more question from online. Any tips on preparing for the student evaluations, the good, the bad, the ugly?
So one thing that comes to mind, when I was first teaching, a colleague sent me this comic, and it's this person reading their teaching evaluations, and it's like, best class I ever took, and like every lecture was a roller coaster. I'm so excited, and I love the subject matter. Sometimes you're kind of an ass. Hey, I really like this class. And then it just shows the person lying in bed that night, and the only thing running through their head is, sometimes you're kind of an ass, and all of the other comments have been forgotten. So just know that that's going to happen, right? Like there's going to be one bad comment, and you're going to fixate on it. Maybe there's going to be more than one bad comment, but like remember the good as well as the bad.
And comments are fleeting.
Yes.
Yeah. You're going to teach a course the next semester, and you're going to pass with flying colors, right? So it's just so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I create space in the classroom on the last day for them to complete it, and they're basically not allowed out till they do it. Although I have no way to check it. But then that way I know, because in previous, again, not much experience here, but no one would do it. They're just so inundated by that time, totally brain dead. They don't have time to sit there and do all the class evaluation. So I do create a bit of that space at the end and just offer that up, and then they leave. And then that way I get my numbers.
Something that's a bit more concrete actually is early in the term, you can do your own private survey of just like, what's something that I should keep doing? What's something that I should start doing? What's something that I should stop doing? You can find your issues earlier where the money is in terms of improving student experience. And that's another one of those actions that telegraphs to the students that you actually care about what they're doing. And so even if you don't actually follow through on any of the things that they suggest, like the fact that you asked, engenders goodwill, which can be helpful for that.
Can I give one more suggestion, which is something that I do sort of halfway through the course of the third or fourth week? I have a little survey on Canvas, and it says, what did you learn in the last couple of weeks? What were some of the things that you learned that were new to you? And everybody has something to say. And rather than putting all of the responsibility for their learning on you, you put it on them. Evaluate what you've learned, assess what you've been doing. How many hours have you been putting into this course? What are some of your plans? What are you going to change? What are you going to keep the same? What are the things that you're going to focus on that we can talk about? Those, I think, are more productive than what can I do for you? It really trains students to be independent rather than dependent.
Thank you for that. I'd like to thank the panelists again for being here today and sharing your experience at UBC and all the many, I think, lessons you've learned over your lifetime here. So thank you very much again for being here. It's been wonderful, and all the best at UBC in the future for everybody. Thank you.
So I have to say, I was sitting there nodding over and over again to this. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And as we mentioned at the beginning, we're sharing a couple of resources with you. So we've got a new faculty primer, which is an online document, and it includes all kinds of small but really critical details like technology, UBC systems support, your email, and all that fun stuff. Course syllabus considerations. There's actually a policy at UBC Vancouver on the syllabus, which is relatively new, which is kind of surprising that we didn't have a syllabus policy, but we do now. Supporting student well-being, the various offices that are available on campus to support students, Indigenous engagement in teaching and learning. There's information about the CTLT Indigenous Initiatives team, as well as other resources on campus. Equity, diversity, and inclusion in teaching and learning. We've partnered with the Equity and Inclusion Office on many different kinds of workshops and resources as well. Academic integrity, that's certainly a big topic. And there's a new academic integrity at UBC website that exists as of the last year. working with TAs and examinations and grading and much more. So we just put together a kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, a cheat sheet, something that you can just have to refer back to over and over. And Emily, do you want to say something about the new faculty orientation guide?
Oh, this is on. Okay. I think you probably got a copy of this as you came in today. So this was actually developed a couple of years ago, but as I was browsing through it, it's really, you know what, it's still relevant today. Really, it's amazing. You know, even though we've gone through the pandemic, you know, we're certainly, a lot of us are back, you know, in the classroom and teaching online. So a couple of things that I think it's broken up into sections. You know, getting started. So your first day, some really great tips to think about, even for people that have been here for 20 years, Sarike, potentially. Then we have classroom climate and our campus. So we talked a lot about exploring, you know, the Musqueam elements at UBC. Student success, so some great tips there. Student well-being, your own well-being. The first day of class, so some really great tips that, again, and this was actually developed in collaboration with many people at CTLT and many faculty across campus, across lots of different disciplines. So there's a great variety of information here. And lastly, evaluation of teaching. So we just talked about. So hopefully everybody got a copy. If you didn't, they're on the desk outside. And I think that is it for that. I think we have a couple of minutes for questions. So I'm and we're talking like regarding anything in the session that, regarding any of the items that we talked about in the session today, anything potentially that you want to explore at CTLT. So I'm opening it up to the room. Yes. Yes, we can do that. So the question for the people online is, are we going to send out the faculty guide? And we will, yes. And all the resources that we did put in the chat area, they will all be sent in an email to you as well, to the people in the classroom here. Yeah. Well, I think we will bring it to a close here today. Again, I want to thank the panel, and we don't have our sustainability presenters here, but I'd like to thank them as well. And I'd like to thank you for your time today. And I have this script that not very good with scripts. I'm sorry. So let's see what I have to say here. And thank you for, again, Suki and her team for helping us put this on today. I know you kind of see us up here, Christine and I. This would not be possible. Again, Graham talked about this with some of the admin staff in your own departments. These people make everything work at UBC. So a shout out to the events team here today. It's really, I can't thank you enough. So again, we talked a lot about CTLT and professional development. So you can visit events.ctlt.ubc.ca. There are a vast amount of professional development workshops coming up in the next couple of weeks and in between September and the spring. So, you know, take a moment, explore. I mean, really it could be on any learning technology that we use at UBC and on really pedagogy. So lots of different learning technologies. And again, if you don't find something there, certainly reach out to people at CTLT because there's always workshops that are happening behind the scenes that haven't been published yet. The CTLT Summer Institute is happening August the 22nd to the 25th. And do we have a link? They can just Google.
Institute.ctlt.ubc.ca.
Okay, great.
Institute.ctlt.
So again, sessions will take place. I don't know if there's any hybrid sessions like this, but they'll take place online and in person. So there'll be a mix of sessions. We have a feedback form. Now I know I can hear a collective groan for feedback form because we talked about feedback. We know it's important. And you know, as faculty, when you're teaching, and even when I do workshops, it's really important for us to know what we did well, what things maybe didn't go all that well, and what suggestions do you have? So there should be feedback forms where?
On the table.
On the tables.
And if you don't have time, we will email you the link to the feedback form as well.
We will find you and email you that feedback form. Because we want your feedback. We know it takes 2 seconds, the good, the bad, the ugly. It helps us know because we do these sessions every year and they're always a little bit different. This was a super big different for us because it was hybrid. So let us know how we're doing. And I think that's about it. Again, thank you so much for attending today.
And the resources will be sent out shortly. And all the best at your time, your September, and all the best. Thank you, everyone.